Have you ever felt like you're trying to do things God's way, you're trying to be as obedient as possible, but it seems like your life is harder, more complicated than unbelievers' life? They seem to not care about what God says, and their lives seem to be okay, and things are easy for them. But for you, it's more complicated. Decisions are more weightier, you're analyzing things more. And after a while, we may think, is it worth it to follow God? Now, obviously, we don't express that because, we know that at the bottom of our hearts of heart, that it is worth it. We want to follow God. But those thoughts sometimes may come to surface in our mind. Has it been worth it? It just seems like my life is so complicated. Every decision is weighty. And has it been worth it? Or is it worth it? The Jewish people asked that question. In Malachi chapter 3, verse 14 and 15, we read, "You have said, it is vain to serve God. What is the profit of our keeping his charge or of walking as in mourning before the Lord of the hosts?" And on verse 15, it goes on to say, "And now we call the arrogant blessed. Evildoers not only prosper, but they put God to the test and they escape." And this is the question that they had. It's vain to serve God. What benefit did we get from serving God or obeying God? I thought about that question in my own personal life, and I came up with 3 things that I think it shows that it is worth it. Even with all the complication, even with all the difficulties that sometimes it may appear, it is worth it. I am in my early 60s now, and I'm able to look back at my life and see the benefit of obeying God. The first benefit has always been, and it still is, his guidance. When we come to places in life and we have to make decisions, and we may weigh in all the options, but we don't know which way is a good way to go. I know for me, it was right around the time when I got married. I was living in a state of California, but I didn't feel good about raising a family in California. I was drawn to Washington State. I prayed and I asked the Lord for a sign, something to show me that I should go to Washington State. But I really didn't get anything. But I just had a sense of draw. Washington appealed to me. And me and my wife, when we moved to the Washington, we both got jobs. But soon after, when we had our first child, I ended up getting a job at one of the transit agency in Washington State. This transit agency, come to find out, was the third highest paying agency in the entire nation. And we were able to really live our lives just with me working, and my wife didn't have to work. And every time we had additional children, I ended up making more money. Every time we needed more money, there was opportunity to do overtime. I made more money. But the point being is that we had no clue. We didn't go to the state of Washington knowing that this agency exists, and it is the third highest paying agency in the entire country. But yet, God, who knew, he drew me to Washington. And also, he drew me and opened the doors of opportunity for me to end up being in that agency. Even to this day, that agency had a pension program that today I still receive the benefit of being employed by that agency. But you see, I didn't get some signs, or there was nothing that I could really tangibly say, but there was an invisible hand guiding my step, directing my path to where I need to be, and I prospered as a result. See, here is the benefit number one, is his invisible guidance. How many times maybe in your own life you can look back and see how God guided you, how he directed you, that as his children, he guides us, he directs us, even though when we don't see. But one of the benefits of looking back at life when you're older, you'll be able to connect the dots better. Because when we are in the middle of it, we really don't see, we are not able to connect the dots properly. But later on in life, we'll be able to look and see how he guided our lives, even though we didn't even notice it, or we may not even ask for it. Now, the second verse that I want to highlight about this, about his guidance, is in Isaiah 43, verse 16, we read, I will lead the blind by a way they do not know. In paths they do not know, I will guide them. And that has certainly been the case for me. Now, the second benefit of doing things God's way, I wish I could always say that I always obeyed God properly, but I haven't. And I came up short quite often. But there was a sincere desire to try to do things God's ways as much as I could, as much as I was able to say no to my flesh. Even though I did not lead an easy life, I had a very complicated life. I have 6 kids, and my life was not simple. I had a lot of issues that presented themselves in my life. And I would pray and I would try to do things according to the Bible and what I know that God would want me to do. But you see, all of those things, it began to form me internally. It began to shape my character. It began to change who I was to become somebody totally different. But now, when I look back, and now the person that I have become as a result of doing things God's way, I'm happy in my own skin. I like who I became, not in an arrogant way, but I remember who I was before I became a Christian. And if I would have remained the way I was, I would have not been a fulfilled and happy individual. But now, I am content with who I became. And who I became was the result of trying to obey God, even though as imperfectly as I did it. But it shaped me. It molded me a certain way. And over time, I saw qualities get developed in me, like love, compassion, kindness, patience, that those qualities have made me to be happy and content with who I am as an individual today. And those qualities have nothing to do with what's going on around you, but it's inside of you. We can pick you up and put you somewhere. If you have those qualities, you will still be a happy, fulfilled individual. And that's what it meant by obeying God and doing things his way. So the second benefit is who you become in the process, who you become as an individual when you try to do things God's way and implement his words into your life. As a matter of fact, Deuteronomy 28:2 is an interesting verse. It says, all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you if you obey the voice of the Lord your God. The word overtake is a powerful word. It means to chase you down, to catch up with you. You see, I found that it seems like God's ways pay their dividends in the second half of life. As blessing begins to come and catch up with you as you move forward in life, it overtakes you. The fleshly way and Satan's way appear to pay their dividends initially. But unfortunately, as time goes on, it becomes undone. It doesn't bring the well-being that we hope for. And it never really fulfilled the promise that he held up to us if we do things in a worldly way or follow our flesh or follow Satan. But God's way, it only appears difficult. It's like jumping into a cold pool. If you do it, after a while you see, it's okay. And you have him beside you. And he is the one that would bless you in a long run. Now, the third benefit is that the best is still yet to come. I'm in my 60s now. Most of my days are behind me. I have fewer days in front of me that I have behind me. But where do I end up? I look forward to where I would be going. I feel like I lived a good life and the best is yet to come when I go in his presence, when I go to be with him. But what would benefit a person if they lead a trouble-free life and never have any complication, but yet they go into eternity condemned, separated from God? But now I am ready to go. This world does not hold any attraction to me. And when I look back at my life, did it matter much what kind of car I drove when I was in my 30s or when I was in my 40s? No. The world holds up these things as trophies. But in reality, the biggest trophy is who you become in the process of your life and where you end up eternally. Jesus said, what would benefit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? And what would he give in exchange for that? So now, as I'm getting older, I look forward to what's ahead. So these three things I thought are tangible benefit of following God, even though it is true that our life may be more complicated, more difficult, not because God's ways are that way, but because the world is not what it ought to be. We are not living in a world that its system is not designed by God. So we are out of our elements. But within these elements, if we obey God, in spite of whatever may come our way, and not be envious of the wicked, we will see by our own personal experience that God's word is not only true, but it is beneficial, that it is worth it to walk with God and do things his way. So, until next time, may the Lord be with you. May he watch over you. May he make his face to shine upon you. This is David Sami with the Christian Journey.